And, bringing in only 4-year-olds is probably the biggest way we could save money, and that's going to be an unknown number. It's like, yeah, you could save a little bit of money by bringing in 4-year-olds, but what if, I guess, the way we could put that to rest is, if she's recommending against it now, so is the board going to continue?
Before, I'm trying to find some happy medium going up, voting down, and nothing. That's what I'm trying to find, is a happy medium between that.
But the details of just bringing in 4-year-olds, I think as a board, we can say that the majority of this board, I think, is opposed to it. I mean, I understand the question, and I think it's a worthwhile discussion we've had, and I think we need to put that behind us and move on. We can't continue to try to say that, we need more details, we need more details. We either have a backup plan or not. It seems that we get into the same position every year where it's like we're not quite comfortable with it because we haven't had all the details flushed out. I think we're pretty close to it, and I think we were pretty close last year. I would just hate to continue to go back and not have a clear message from the board that this is what we support or don't support.
I'm not saying I'm for bringing just 4-year-olds up. I'm just saying that I'm trying to find a happy medium between what got turned down and nothing, and I want to make sure us as a board, I guess if anybody asks why we're not doing 4-year-olds, then that's why I don't have that information, so we could answer that. We could tell them. Like right now, I'm still not convinced with the answer that I was given. So, and, how am I going to tell, person A, why aren't you looking at 4-year-olds? Have you looked at 4-year-olds? What's your answer going to be to that person?
And to me, it's something you have to say as a board because that's not what we're looking at.
Okay, that's all.
If you're looking at 3 and 4-year-olds, that's the plan we're looking at. So if the board doesn't support it, the staff doesn't support it, why do you continue with the conversation? It's as simple as because it doesn't save us that much money, and it's not the plan we're looking at. And if you want more details on that, they provided it to us. She's answered it. They've answered the question. But thanks, I don't see any other than what you're recommending to do to flush out what you wanted to. I don't think that we really need to do a whole lot more.
I can do that.
Can we provide some comments now or wait?
Now later.
Now's probably the best now, I don't think. So yeah.
Okay. So I just encourage you all to remember in terms of what the proposal is being brought forward, it was a tie vote that this was defeated on. So, to put that forward to the voters. The 4-year-olds, again, to clarify, it's not all about the money. Gail clarified it's going to affect class configurations the way it is, the way the curriculum is set up. That's what you can tell people. Why, and again, if I understand it correctly, that this 4-year-old discussion is putting 4-year-olds in the existing kindergarten. Because to just take 4-year-olds as a preschool program, just to clarify what Kate was saying, you're going to take 4-year-olds, you should definitely take 3-year-olds. I think the establishing a real enrollment policy that certainly Bartlett is giving us great guidance on in terms of who gets first dibs, in terms of numbers. We never know what can happen, as we've seen year on year in our school community. All it takes is a whole bunch of families to move in, and we're constantly, so you can't plan that stuff out. It really needs to happen every year. And all of you should just say, when we look at those warrant articles, who's supporting, who's against, you make your decision, you stick by that as a board member. People can ask you why, make their own decisions as to, the value that they place in your knowledge of the issues. Make that vote, and then we move on. So, please move forward on this.
Anything else?
I'm going to come back to you both, Keith, you stated my objection very clearly, and Jerry, you stated too as well that were of concern to me. I think you come forward, it seems to me, with more answers. You flesh it out better, but you have the exact same proposal that you had last year. And You know, there are money aspects of it that bother me. That part is that if the number is still the same, it was $97,000 for a teacher and an aide. That's a lot of money. There are going to be days where that teacher, I bet, there could be days where she has 0 students. You know, it's not going to be, if you have 12 3- and 4-year-olds in a row, there's not going to be 5 days a week, they're not going to be 12. So when I look at it that way, I think, wow, what's that teacher going to do on the days when she's got, how's she going to be earning her money when she's got 1 or 2 children in the class? It just doesn't fly with me. And what did you say, Jerry? You had a couple of things, and you knew people would question. I should have written down. I didn't. But
Sorry.
you can't remember either.
The big thing was the enrollment and how often is it really going to be utilized for that that piece of it. We're spending a piece of $97,000 in the budget. It's if we only get a certain number of kids here, there are going to be days when that teacher might not have anyone, and that could happen. And I guess what that reflects is how does it get handled year to year? Like if it's, unless we offer it, we don't know. And that's kind of the way I look at it, is that we can not offer it and then we won't ever have to think about it again. But if we do offer it and it doesn't meet our expectations, we do the following year. And I think that that's something that we have to maybe flush out as a board to be more clear about, is that, if we do this and it doesn't meet our expectations for enrollment on a day-to-day basis, are we actually going to offer it the following year? And that's a big concern people have. And I think because once it gets voted in, it becomes part of our operating budget, it just happens. So how many years if we decide to start up a program, how many years do we do it? Do we just do it for 1 year? Do we say we're going to do it for 2 years or 3 years to really give it a good try? Because, did we get the first year, does it mean that it's not going to work the second year? We don't know. And that's something I think that we have to answer as a board, is that do we want to really, if we're going to start up a program, are we starting up with the expectation that we're going to take a hard look at it every year? Or are we going to say that we're going to look at it really hard for 2 years or what? And I think that's something that we'll need to discuss as a board more.
And we know the enrollment varies every year. Yeah, there may be 12 4- and 3-year-olds this year, but next year there may be, many fewer, half that number. And then, then you still have this teacher at bottom of the line, and you're going to have half, maybe you could have half the students, and then it becomes even harder for me to justify that salary.
But that's something I think is important to be clear, which is that it gets clarified because it's not an 8:30 to 3 o'clock position. It's 9 to 1. That's outside of the norm. So we're going to have a baseline expense that is going to be what it's going to be. And the counter argument is look at the communities offering more than we didn't have for that little amount of money. So that argument can go both ways. But the biggest concern I've had with the money is how much we're spending to how it will be used. And that's an issue I think that we're going to have to the board will have to do a little bit better job of presenting to counter that argument. It doesn't mean that it's going to satisfy everyone's concern, but.
And we also talked about last year, maybe having tuitioning in students from other communities, which I suppose if you have 6 from Jackson, then immediately it's going to be, oh my gosh, let's get some from another, let's try to get 4 more from another town or towns. And you also talked about that number of $6,000. That I didn't know either as tuition for an out-of-town student. It's costing us $9,500 per student, and if you bring in from another, why should we subsidize, from another town at $6,000? Maybe you want to look at that. That might make more sense to say whatever it costs is what it's going to be asking for tuition, if it comes to that, from students from another town. Don't make the Jackson people subsidize people from another town. That's not fair.
Well, there's a lot to that fairness question, and again, that's something that we haven't really had a real discussion about on the board, and I think that's something we'll have to do again, is that if it's something that we're going to back, we're going to have the tuition discussion. We haven't really had the transportation discussion, other than no one's ever, from the board or the community, said, hey, let's think about transportation, so maybe that's not something that we actually have to flush out the details for. We understand we have to provide there's conditions in which we would have to provide transportation, but absent of those conditions, we're not going to have transportation. That's something the board never really made a firm decision on.
And I don't think you
But-
even want to go there.
But I think that just, if we were to have a discussion about the tuition, the concerns that you raised would be put to rest. You might not agree with us, but the board hasn't had the conversation about the tuition yet. So I think until we do, we can't really, that's a detail that's important for us to do, is to sit down and say, okay, this is what we're going to do for tuition and why. So that those concerns can be answered anyway. Right.
I mean, I think that the way the community understands that there's difference and there's movement is in the presentation. So it's about what you're saying, Jerry. The board gets behind it, and the board steps in and says, this is how we're going to do it. And it's going to look like this, and all those answers are there, and the passion is there, and then it looks like a different proposal. And I think that, to Keith's point, I think that, people want to understand what's different, and I think it can be, look, this is a tie vote. And so we like, this is a good proposal, and as a board, we back it, we're following, changes. There's not going to be a basement. Kids are not going to be very, to clarify all the things in the hot issues. And again, you're saying, Jerry, to really have thought through all of the pieces that we know are going to be questions, and then have those all answered, and do a great job of that presentation. I think that is what makes it different. And I think that's what communities are going to get on. So I really, when I hear you say, okay, great, so now the board is going to be behind that, I think my question, or not my question, is then once Gail comes back with these other answers, then you're saying that the board would then make other kind of their next steps about having a conversation about tuition in, or having the all the other conversations that need to happen with the board to then robustly present that. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I really think that as far as between this month and next month, unless the board really, if the board wants to do something else that looks like something other than what we talked about, then the board needs to decide a process for doing that. How are we going to move forward on another plan? The plan is basically identical to the last one, except for now we're really being clear about the use of the basement. Where we're saying, okay, we're not going to use the basement for the library, which is a significant change, I think.
I knew that already when I go with it.
But other than that, the board needs to decide we're going to back this plan up.
Yeah, and then I think that's what's going to be. I think that from the conversations that I have with the community and who's sitting here, I think that's really the essence of what makes it different. And that kind of creates, again, I think it's about creating the passion for it. And everyone on the school board has done a lot because you guys are passionate about education and about supporting it in this town. And I think we're looking for that guidance and then to be able to rally behind that. And, to have the answers as many of the questions as we can.
So really what we're looking at is we don't want to back another plan that has just 4-year-olds. We want to back a plan that has 3 and 4-year-olds in the current building the way it is now without changing it, and that we're going to add 2 staff members for it. And so where the question becomes is, does the KL and the staff feel that we have the room and capacity to do that in our current building? And beyond that, we really don't, there isn't a whole lot that we need to go with, unless we want to change the plan entirely, which I'm not seeing movement on the board to do. Doesn't mean that there are still things to discuss like tuition, to put the idea of transportation to rest as a board. They never really decided, okay, we're definitely not offering transportation, although no one's ever said anything different. Again, it's not, those are the details that we haven't really figured out. And the other detail that we need to figure out is, how do we need to change the personnel policy to reflect what we're doing? Those are the kind of details that we need to look at, I think. And then beyond that, again, the board needs to figure out is how are we going to present it on a year-to-year basis? Are we going to say that we're going to take a long, hard look at it after the first year to see whether we're going to back it again for the following year or not? Or are we going to say we're going to back something for 2 years or 3 years so that we can assure the community, listen, we're going to take a hard look at it after year 1 or after year 2 or what? So we need to decide that too. But I think that the SAU and Gale in particular, you've done everything you can at this point for what we're offering. Unless we want to offer something different, then this is what we go with. Anything else? Okay. So yeah,
Because we need some signatures.
so let's get through the business stuff that we need to get done today. Thanks everyone for.
I'm sorry, I didn't know this. I have to deal with my kids.
I'm sorry for being late. Billy, update for anything?
There have been footings forward, and I think that at the next meeting, we'll have more specifics and thank yous for the name of the company escapes me. Fred Henry did a lot of the excavation, so there are now footings out there, excavation, and it's ready to go. The one thing I do want you to put in your books is September 21st. That is going to be the date of the raising, and we'd like to pair that with community cookout, and are inviting everyone in the community to come lend a hand and come be a part of the cookout. Watch for specifics on the time. It will be during the school day because we want most of the kids to be involved with that. So, and it will run into the after school hours.
It'll be a beautiful day.
And it'll be just like today, right? It'll be gorgeous. We'll order it up. All right.
Let's roll through the personnel actions and business cards and get this one that we need to get done.
Eric Tomfrey.
Yeah, approval, dedicate a motion for the approval of revision to Eric Tomfrey's ES Water contract.
So, do you want to just talk about what the changes were?
The changes were student IEP needs required more hours than we had originally budgeted for.
So we're going to move some money around the budget to cover it.
We had dedicated money to cover it. That wasn't the issue. It was just the original contract only detailed that
Oh,
it
his
was 9 hours.
I see.
Yes, it was for the summer. We had a contract with him and we needed more hours than we had originally contracted.
Questions? All those in favor? Yes. Entertaining motion to accept with regret the resignation of Pablo Casabuenas.
So moved.
Questions? All those in favor?
He loved his experience here in Jackson. He surely did. And it's-
Was he the one out with soccer too?
The other side.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I mean, he might have come a few times as a PE teacher.
Oh, okay.
He was a PE teacher and a world language teacher. Then in fact, what he's doing now is teaching world language. He found that he loved the language part of the job after doing, he was really a PE teacher all the time. Now he's got a full-time job teaching Spanish, so we are sad to see him go.
Budget status report. Any questions?
We haven't spent too much yet.
No, you guys are all budgeted so far.
There's a school lunch perks summary. What I want to get to is considering the retaining fund balance from June of the last fiscal year. So I entertain a motion for retaining of the fund balance from. Actually, let's not make a motion, so we know what we're doing yet, but let's have a discussion about it first. Fund balance. So
What was it?
what is the
What would be allowed to keep?
So right now, your ending fund balance was $195,460. But of that, we had estimated a revenue of $103,000. So the question before you tonight is, you can retain the Jackson Board $60,512 as allowed by RSA 198-4B2. And what that can be used for is to reduce the tax rate or for emergencies to be approved by the Department of Education. Last year, you folks had the issue of the facilities issue, and you retained $25,000. This year, you have an unanticipated aid that you've already approved and hired as well, and you may have some other pieces going in. So you folks get to decide, do you want to retain $60,512? Do you want to retain 50,000, 25, or $0.
So the one we retained last year, you only keep it for a year and then it goes back?
Yeah, you can't keep it from.
So that's gone. So if we say no, then it's zero.
There's zero. And you're already at the point where you have some unanticipated costs that have come up.
But we also have, what, 120,000 in special ed?
It's not a special ed issue.
And another 100 in the, I think the
If you were to,
So we're pretty well covered in our capital reserve for emergency expenses that we look at. So this really comes down to the tax rate probably more than anything else for us.
I would say give it back. It's like it's 1.9 and drop the low the tax rate. It's a good chunk of money, $125,000.
well, you're going to return 130,000 of that. So this is only $60,000.
So it's a total of 190.
Yeah, correct.
What was the budget increase for the budget that was just passed?
I don't know.
Number-wise?
But we can't just use the budget deficits. It has to be something approved by the state, right?
No, the board can approve that.
Yeah, we can.
No, if we actually use the money from that, we'd have to get approval.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We can't just go ahead and use it. We'd have to get permission. It's not like we can just use
But if we had a reason that we would be looking at that money in the first place, we probably would need it, and they probably would
Yeah.
move it. So that's not the concern, but that's why I bring up the fact that we're covered with our capital reserve funds for things that give up weather blows or roof needs to be fixed or something like that. Those things we are covered for. So it really depends on the tax rate. I kind of agree that I'm inclined to just say, let's not reserve any of it this year. Return all of it. Pam?
Make that decision with great caution. If we have a student with a significant special ed need moving to town, I've seen it throughout our other districts just this summer. Families moving with housing shortage is really impacting families, and they're moving a lot. And there are pieces that we haven't budgeted for because we can't even anticipate it. We've really been slammed in other districts.
And we have 110,000 in that.
And then there's like 100 of the educational one too.
So currently out of district tuitions are between $200,000 and $250,000 at least.
So let me ask you, if we didn't have the money, what happens?
Well, if you don't have the money,
Well, so in other districts, that if you don't have that money, you can, I mean, just recently, we had a little town that expended their whole budget. They expended their special ed trust fund, and they had to have a supplemental warrant article for $50,000 as well.
So that would be how much? So we would, if we spent it, we would go to a meeting next week saying, hey, we need 100 grand.
No, it would take place at voting time. It would be a special
So
warrant article.
we would just keep spending money that we don't have until then.
You'd have to refreeze the budget, and you'd really cut back on things.
And it has to be a voting time. We can't hold a special meeting anytime we want to ask money.
No.
No.
Because you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know until February. or
Yeah, well, let's say we just came to this meeting and we were just told like, hey, we got $200,000 right now.
Deficit.
Yeah.
No,
So we physically, it's not legal to actually hold a special meeting and have a warrant article out of voting time and ask money.
you wouldn't.
There's no way to do that.
It's way too early. You wouldn't know. It's a student.
Well, no, we just know it just happened.
But you don't know how long you're going to be here. They can move out of the district as fast as they move in.
The way you take care of it is through a special deficit.
Yeah. The reason I was asking that
In
is,
the warrant. And it's one of those things that it's boards and administrators throughout the state are always scared of those things. I don't think it's something that Jackson has to be too concerned about if we have a special deficit warrant article. I think that's something that the voters would understand and we can deal with it then. My concern would be, you said freezing the budget. Does that mean that everything that's encumbered still, you can still spend the money?
Well, it depends on the direction and how much it is. So, you're the board, you can give me direction. I would just,
But I would say, if we have in the budget $25,000 for books, we can still spend $25,000.
you can do whatever you want, right?
and
To clarify, at the, like, next year, the money, if it's untouched, goes back anyway?
It does. It goes back to offset your taxes. So what
So waiting a
happens?
year is not terribly.
It's just really offset this
So-
year, next year.
Just understand, there's a level of volatility. Your budget is not really that big in terms of, so if year after year, you turn back $150,000, and then you have nothing to offset your taxes for the following year, and you've exhausted some of those other things, that's why the little town of Albany had a spike in their tax rate of 40% in one year, like that. And so those are those pieces that you try to, because that's the worst thing we want is for your tax rate to jump up and then jump back down. That's not anything that you want to do. You want to keep it. So if you're in that habit of budgeting very well and you do a good job and consistently it's like $75,000 on a multi-million-dollar budget that you're, yeah, that's pretty good, 18 months in advance. So that's my cautionary tale is we already know we spent how much on the aid position? $18,000. You still have to hire,
Well, I would say we give it back, and the biggest reason I say we give it back is $195,000 over this year, so we'll be somewhere around next year. And two, I guarantee you, if you went to every taxpayer in Jackson and said, hey, we're at a deficit, do you want savings now, or can I hang on to it? And if there's an emergency, they're going to say, no, give it to me now. If there's an emergency, I'll give it back.
That's kind of,
You can't,
Yeah.
you can't just give it back when there's an emergency, right?
you can do it right now. So you have to make a determination today. Does that entire $195,000 go to offset your assessed education needs? Or instead of $195,000, is it $165,000? Something along those lines.
it actually goes back to the overall tax, rate, not just the schools actually.
Right.
So,
And, yeah.
but so what we're talking about, we can retain it at 62 right now. We had retained 25 last year.
Right.
That goes back to we don't retain it.
Is that part of the 195? Or is that separate from the one?
No, that's already.
That's starting to get back.
And where we have like something that just kind of brought to my attention that made me curious of like, we have a place up the street in Jackson that's about to have 14 apartments. And will those 14 apartments have families and will those families have needs? And then all of a sudden it's like, there's a, like that would be a huge influx of population for Jackson at once in a way that like, as a town, we don't experience that very often. And to play it, I have no idea if that's like when that's happening or anything. If it's an unknown, but is it safer to kind of be cautious with an unknown like that? That's just sitting over there and potential for mid-school year.
And Diana's what you're saying, to me, it's almost splitting hairs because
Yeah.
the amount that we can retain isn't really enough to cover those kind of expenses anyway. We don't retain 62,000. You give that with the unique situation of the town of Jackson, in which we have a very large, from the town standpoint, have a very large unreserved fund balance, meaning we have a lot of money we don't spend in Jackson. So there's ways that we can compensate for a large tax impact. Meaning, so if we get a $200,000 or $400,000 tuition bill, this is going to cover that anyway. Then we're probably going to take a seriously talking with the selectmen and the whole town and saying, how do we want to compensate for this big impact? So there's not a lot we can do to offset that. Really, when we were looking at things, we're trying to talk about retaining $62,000 in the budget. We're doing that for purposes. If a boiler blows, if the roof needs replacement, we need to hire one more staff member or something like that, then we've got flexibility there without impacting us. So I think that there's some value in talking about retaining that. As far as it offsetting larger expenses, I'm not afraid at all that we go back to the town and say, hey, we overspent because of this reason. We go right back to Keith's arguments. Do you want it now or do you want that?
And how much did you retain last year?
25, and that was really to kind of offset the jump that we knew in taxes was coming from, for this budget that was passed back in March. Because we knew we'd have some added expenses because of tuition with the middle school and the high school. So our recommend there from last year was that we want to retain that to offset that spike a little. That's 25 that we retained from last year. Goes into actually offsetting what your tax increase in October is going to be when you get your October tax bill. So what we're talking about now, any money we retain that we don't spend in next year's budget would be offsetting next year's tax increase in October. Not this October 2019. So this is what, from a tax standpoint, what we're talking about, that's where that money would be offsetting to if we don't retain more money next year.
If we were borrowed like an ounce, seriously, we could go keeping that, but it's different in here.
It's different here because Jackson has a very large unreserved fund balance at the town level, not at the school level. The schools couldn't even do this before, so some of these newer schools did. Really to stabilize tax rates. We're not going to achieve that by retaining much money. Unless we knew that next year we were having a $75,000 increase to our tuition bill with Conway for our high school. We knew that was coming. We wanted to say, hey, yeah, let's retain 50 so that it offsets that for October 2019. We're not looking at that right now. So I kind of agree with Keith. I said that we don't retain anything.
You know, let's say we have a $250,000 placement, we knock out both of our funds to cover it. We come to next year, and we're not going to get access down to $200,000 to put back in the thing. You know, we have a legitimate reason to ask. Whereas now we're just, we'll kind of keep the money just in case.
Actually, the just in case piece, maybe this does make more sense because I think we're giving back more this year than we had anticipated by probably more than 62,000. But one thing that we should have a serious discussion about is our special ed tuition trust fund. Should we be putting more money into that? When we set that cap at 100,000 9+ years ago, expenses have increased. So if we're going to increase that cap to say 200,000, maybe it would be nice to have $25,000 in the middle and automatically offset that when it's voted on in March. If we don't have something, other reason to spend that money. So I guess I'm going to make a motion to.
Should we be for full board? Or do we have to vote today?
No, we have to sign off on these forms.
That's okay. I'm going to make a motion to retain $25,000 of the designated fund balance.
Second.
Any more session to leave for it? And the only thing I would say is that I think that we need to have a conversation between now and budget about do we increase that cap on the tuition fund? Should we be looking to do that?
And use the wording that was 25 and that we know.
Well, I mean, yeah, we can have the discussion if we get to the budget hearing in March.
Did you take a vote on it?
No.
All those in favor?
I'm really sorry, but I like it.
Just one piece of business before Keith leaves that I would like to, under administrator's reports, and jump right along because this is important. So we have a number of positions that need to be hired still. And you don't have a meeting until the September 17th meeting. So we would like to hire these people. We can do it one of two different ways. If we get candidates and Gail interviews, she finds people, they come to me, I sit down, I interview them, check out references, and then I make a recommendation to you folks. If I could poll the board by email and send out the information to you folks so that you can, essentially, I can hire these people and it would be retroactive to the first day at the next board meeting.
Yeah, I think we've done
And then if you have any questions, I can hold that position, but you have your technology person, world language, PE, and potentially a stipend for, as a mentor that we talked about for the technology transition.
And what about the progress I've got candidates we completed interviews?
Yeah.
Is there a para position?
Weren't you meeting in Paris before?
Yes.
And a paraprofessional as well. So,
Can any of those be voted on then?
I haven't even met these people yet, so I appreciate your trust in me.
Yeah, no,
Bad.
You said you could be too.
But yeah, like he said, that's how we handle it in years past.
So I will email you their packet of information.
I don't even know if you need to do that, you can just email and tell us it's available at the office, rather than you don't have to start putting it in minutes.
If you have,
These are all positions that really,
I'll put the names, and then if you want to review the packets or you want to take a specific look, make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
I
Thank
don't
you.
think we've ever really gotten involved in those positions before anyway, as far as having a board member look, sit on the interviews or anything like that, so that's.
The only other piece of business was another walking tonight, it's a memo from Gail about the Whitney Center recommendation. And John Stokey and Gail, it was under $10,000, which is that threshold for going out to bid and RFPs and all that stuff. They did contact a number of local contractors, and L.A. Routine, Ryan Formack, and Carr were contracted. Just total disclosure, Dombrowski Brothers, Dombrowski Brothers, willing to do the work here. So you have that in front of you, unless there are any questions or concerns, but.
And that was with this back wall.
Yes, that's the side.
Wasn't John starting on something with that already?
Yeah, that's what they're talking about.
Oh, I thought he was doing something in his own first, and then we would have decided he wanted to go ahead. No. That's not how it went.
Yes, this was the first wall he was gonna, this is what he's
So
talking
he
about.
did this one?
No, this is, he didn't say he was gonna do that.
I thought he was
No.
testing a few things and then.
No, he was gonna do that, and he's kept me,
Yeah.
the process all that from the beginning, I haven't clarified that, sorry. Yeah, that all sounds good. I do want to have a session about our board policies, that bid, what triggers that bid number and how that stuff gets facilitated. So we went with the way contracting works these days. I mean, first of all, when that was set, prices were different, but the availability of contractors is, when you're talking about plumbers or electricians and things like that, they're so hard to come by these days. I think that we need to kind of maybe look at a different policy and rely more on Jim and John to facilitate some of that stuff outside of the board. Higher threshold.
$10,000 is.
So maybe bumping that up to like $20,000, something like that point.
I can put that on for a policy.
Cool. And I don't think that we really need to think about that whole, I don't think we need a policy board meeting specifically to do that, but I think that bumping the number up might be something we want to do.
That's it.
So I did want to bring up, the town is looking at bringing in solar panels for roofs in town, and the one that makes the most sense is the roof above our head right now. They're looking at putting them on town garage, the fire department, any roofs that the town has, is being considered anyway. But I was wondering if they could get a copy of the electric bill emailed to the town office, so that they could, just this one. And that might be something that we'll have to consider at some point, but I think it should also go through the Whitney Community Oversight Committee. If we get to the point where someone proposes, hey, let's put solar panels up there, then I think that the process will be, let's kick it to the Whitney Community Oversight Committee, and then back to us and see if it works. But just get it started, I need to take a look at the numbers. I don't think they have a separate bill for this building versus the school, but what they need basically is the overall electrical usage for the year for some reason. So.
I'll just pass this down to you, this is the summer report of attendance for the summer, the number of students attending each week, the JGS students, they're broken out by grade level, out-of-town students, JGS students, and total participants, and then there are some comments on the back from parents that were on the survey, and we've asked for this information in the past. So,
That's good. I'm going to close the meeting. We can continue with further discussion if we want to, but we've voted on everything that we need to. So entertain a motion to adjourn. Yeah, thanks. All those in there, you can leave. We'll continue any discussion we need to.